welcome to your show, Take Two, with Jerry and Debbie. I'm Debbie Georgiani, along with Jerry Usher, and we say this every single time we do this show, hopefully you, because you are the teachers here, and that's exciting. We introduce a topic, we take a fresh look at things, we learn a lot about ourselves and the world around us. Hopefully we're a little bit changed, a little bit closer to God after this brief hour together, but we need your participation. And Jerry, we survived another Academy Awards ceremony last night. We survived another one.
I did. I hardly knew it was on. I didn't survive it because I didn't watch any of it. No, what happened?
Oh, it was, the comments, whether,
more of the usual stuff.
Yeah, the political statements and everybody making, accepting their awards and then making their, statements to the world because they have a microphone,
Right.
It's interesting, but it kind of is in line with what we're talking about today. Do you practice what you preach? We heard a lot of preaching last night at the Academy Awards. Do folks really practice what they preach? We're asking all of us that today. Okay, so do like just a self inventory to see if you are in line. You genuinely try to live out the principles that you teach to your coworkers, your children, your friends. Do you practice what you preach? Do you walk the walk, talk the talk? Or have you been labeled that just awful word, hypocrite?
The H word? Yeah,
the H word, hypocrite. Yeah, really, let's talk about it. I think it's interesting.
Well, I think all of us run the risk and even perhaps have crossed that line to where we were considered a hypocrite before. What I would say to anybody who has been in that situation before, our good friend, St. Francis de Sales, he says, when we sin, true, authentic follower of Jesus, when you sin, you fall out of weakness, not disobedience. So that's something important for us to keep in mind. Sometimes we can be flat out disobedient to God, but he says he's very gentle in his pastoral care, and he says you've fallen more out of weakness. But that still doesn't eliminate in the eyes of others the fact that, hey, you talk one way and then you act this other way. So that's what we want to talk about today, and see if we can get some great insights on this at 833-288-EWTN, 833-288-3986.
And maybe you have really mastered this. You've said, okay, I'm not going to speak. I'm not going to give advice. I'm not going to, really direct anyone in a certain direction unless I'm actually living it, unless I'm actually, authentically being that person that I'm wanting these other people to be or to act, right? Maybe you've mastered it. We need to hear from you. Or maybe you struggle like the rest of us. We know what is right. Okay, we know what that truth is. We don't always measure up, but we don't want to see others fail. So we feel like we must say something. And that's kind of the benefit I'm giving those actors last night, Jerry, because, let's face it, they live in a whole different universe in the entertainment world. And, we can make judgments about them. We can say, oh, they're not practicing what they preach. Maybe they really are trying, very hard to try and, conduct their lives in a better way. And so they do feel that since they do have this microphone, they can say stuff that can help the rest of us. So I like to give them the benefit of the doubt there and try to, look at it a different way. But I got to tell you, it does kind of irritate me somewhat because sometimes I think the loudest voices in certain areas, then you look at what they are actually doing and you're thinking, okay, why are they the loudest voices? This makes no sense. Do you ever see that, Jerry? I mean,
sure.
We live in a world of like that every day when you turn on the news.
Well, yeah, we've seen just a tad bit of hypocrisy in the news in the last several months, and it just goes on and on. But today, we want to bring this to ourselves, folks. There's all of that stuff going on out there. We need not concern ourselves too much with that because we want to stand before God and know that we really did practice what we preach. And there's that passage in the Bible, Debbie, I can't remember where it is, but Jesus says something like the scribes and the Pharisees sit on Moses' seat, meaning they have authority and judgment and so forth. And he says, but do what they say, but not do what they do. In other words, they were the sort of the leaders of the time, sitting on the seat of Moses. They were to be respected, and their authority was to be carried out. But he says, don't do as they do. So Jesus even pointed out, he even called some people hypocrites in his day. So this is nothing new. So folks, it's part of the human condition. So let's admit today, for example, I'll be the first to admit there have been times when I have lived not in a manner with what I was preaching. And it wasn't because I wanted to. I think it was out of weakness in many occasions. And so I think a lot of us do that. But love to hear from you if you find it challenging to live the faith as we receive it. If you're married, do you and your spouse have certain tools or methods that you try and use to keep one another accountable and just say, let's be walking this faith with fervor and honor and so forth, so that when people see us, they will see Christ. 833-288-3986.
Okay, a couple scenarios for you. Have you ever had this happen to you? Your teenager comes to the dinner table and says, Mom and Dad, I've decided I'm going to start smoking marijuana. And you say, no, you can't do that. It's bad for you. Do you know what that does to your brain? And they say, but Mom, Dad, look at the big bottle of wine you have sitting on the table. What's the difference? What's the difference? You and Dad enjoy a couple glasses of wine every evening. Why can't I smoke a joint now and then? Right? I mean, at what point do we say, as parents, do as I say, not as I do? Or should we, really start to take note that our children are watching and absorbing all of this? Has any of this kind of stuff happened to you where it's like this odd circumstance, and then you look at your own conduct and you're thinking, they've got a point there. I'm telling them to do something or not to do something, and I'm kind of doing it myself. Let's talk about it. Do you practice what you preach? That's what we're asking today. Please call in at 833-288-3986.
Well, sometimes we also throw out the scenario where you maybe at one point in your life were not practicing what you now preach. Because a lot of kids will come back to mom and dad just in the vein that you're talking about, Debbie, and say, well, you guys did this or that or whatever when you were young and before you got married and this sort of thing. But see, we can have these turnarounds, these metanoias in our life. This is not about being stuck in being not living out the faith, not practicing what we preach. This is about just kind of recognizing it and saying, I move on from that. I fail sometimes, but I have these tools and ways of recognizing that and moving on. So fill up those phone lines, 833-288-3986.
Now, not only can you watch EWTN anywhere but anytime with EWTN On Demand. Get on-demand access to more than 12,000 EWTN programs, including live shows and specials, all in one place, all free. Just go to EWTN.com/on-demand. There's nothing to fill out, no memberships required, and no fees to pay. All you need is an internet connection, and you're good to go. EWTN On Demand. Fast, easy, and free.
When you deal with God, get out of the way.
The incomparable Mother Angelica. She broke the mold of Catholic teaching with her one-of-a-kind perspective. From her spunky spiritual growth talks to her eye-opening scripture study. A nun like none other.
I intended to scare the hell out of you.
She was the one, the only, the non-forgettable Mother Angelica. Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio and Television.
In Making a Holy Lent, 40 meditations to prepare you for the Church's holiest season, EWTN host Father William Casey offers a compelling retreat designed to help you answer God's call to be people of faith, prayer, and devotion. Grow closer to God this season with Making a Holy Lent, now available at EWTNRC.com or call us at 1-800-854-6311.
Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio. Thank you, affiliates, for airing the program. There would be no show for you, the Take Two family, without them. So obviously support them as well. It's coming up on Pledge Drive season before too long. And we thank Rich, Jesse, Jeff Burson, and Ryan Penny, the main core of the show team, along with other people as well, for being a part of the broadcast. We appreciate that so much. want to draw your attention to EWTN's Cathedrals Across America, and it presents a massive ordination of Monsignor Robert McClory as the 5th Bishop of Gary, Indiana. That's tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern Time on EWTN TV and EWTN Radio Classics.
Okay, you're going to have to scare me or something because the water's not working. I have the hiccups.
Uh-oh. Boo.
Oh, it worked. Okay. Oh, anybody else got any home remedies for that? No, that's okay. We'll get a ton of emails on that. That's okay. We'll get through this broadcast. Okay, so we want to ask you: do you practice what you preach? Let's really explore this. Okay, do you talk the talk and walk the walk? You may talk the talk really well, but you have trouble in walking the walk. Okay, so let's talk about that and see if we can get to a better place at the end of this discussion. Here's the number. There are some open phone lines. Please call in at 833-288-3986. And before we get to our first caller, Jerry, we just had an email that came in. Would you read it for us?
Yeah, this is really at the heart of what we're talking about today, and it's a very touching email from George, sent from his smartphone. George says, "In my pride, I have prayed for my wife to embrace the Catholic faith. She is a Protestant Christian and is opposed to going to the Catholic Church or to having our girls attend. Instead, please pray that I would submit so very much to Jesus' love that his love would shine so bright through me, my wife would be unable to resist him." Isn't that a beautiful email?
That is. But that's a great way to look at it and a great way to conduct yourself. I mean, I think that's just perfect. Okay, so if you feel prompting of the Spirit to call in, now's the time to do it. You don't have to out yourself and say, "Hey, I don't practice anything I preach. I'm a big hypocrite." Okay, just hang an H around my neck. No. We're not talking about that. Let's do this together. We're all in the same boat. Okay, so please call in 833-288-3986 and please pull over safely to the side of the road if you want to make a phone call. We don't want you to get any tickets or anything from the police. So 833-288-3986. Okay, our first caller is in Fairfax, Virginia on Guadalupe Radio Network. And Jerry, help me out with her first name.
Looks to me like Lone.
Lone, okay. Is it? Did we get that correct, Lone?
It's Loanne.
Loanne, okay.
Loanne.
Okay. Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you? I would like to call in to share my experience with my family. Well, my husband. And first of all, it's a long story, but I was one of the boat people back in '75, and I came when I was 11. And so my mom first was very, I didn't know that was abusive, but, she was very strict to me about me being a girl, had to clean up the house, had to take care of the sibling and cook and clean and all that besides school. So I did all that until when I grew up, I see most of my friends doesn't do things like that here in the United States. So, and then when I got married, my husband is very abusive with words, very, very abusive. He never praised me of anything. He always said, "You're so stupid, you're so ignorant, you're so all of that." But, I got angry and it grudged in my heart. And then I talk about him to other people. And then a few years later, probably like 5 or 6 years later, within the 30 years that I married him, I went to church each day. I asked God, I said, "What did I do wrong that nothing is ever go right with my husband?" And then in my heart, it started to tell me that, those kind of people are the people who they don't know, and they're very insecure about themselves. They do not know about me, which is, I guess, Jesus. And so you have to imitate in a good way so that they can see it, so that they will know that you are mine. And so, when I heard things like that, and plus I also listened to EWTN a lot, and I learned so much. I wish I've learned all these when I was young, but I learned so much, and I learned to be quiet. And then I learned to imitate like Christ, be meek and humble and endure it and pray. That's what I do nowadays. Just go to church, pray, and, be patient and be more loving. And then, so he changed. He see that in me, and then he changed. He doesn't change 100%, 180%, but he changed at least probably 30 to 35%. He doesn't go at me. He doesn't put me down as much as he used to. And, I have 3 beautiful children. I thank God that God giving me a chance to be a mom and to be a wife and, even to be a big sister. And and I'm very grateful. So nowadays I have been talking less. I don't talk about what he does to me to other people anymore. Instead, I'm being quiet and pray, and my life is a lot more peaceful.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you what, Luann, you have really shared a very poignant story here. And for me, the moral of it is grace, God's grace is available in any situation, and sometimes the way that we respond to that situation is going to dictate how and when and how much he injects that grace into a situation. And in your case, your husband was abusive, never offered you praise. You got angry, but then you decided you were going to turn that around, and you said, I'm going to go to Mass. I'm going to go to Mass daily. And then you said it was beautiful. You said you asked God why it was like this, and then God's answer to you was, he doesn't know about me, Jesus, you see. And so that gave you a perspective out of which then to move forward and then just be kind and gentle, not talk about him to other people. And Debbie, again, that grace just needs a little opening in the door to get in there. And Luann offered that, not only just a crack, but a huge wide open door for God's grace.
Yeah, Loanne, absolutely. Jerry, doesn't that remind you of that wonderful caller we had several months back when she forgave her dad, who was very abusive?
Yes.
And she showed her dad this beautiful love that probably her abusive dad had never seen before, had never experienced. She was being Christ. It was Barbara. Thank you, Jerry, for reminding me. It was Barbara. It was a wonderful call, Loanne, and it was very similar to what similar to your story, and she chose to change the direction of how she treated him. Then this was her father, but you can relate it to your marital situation. She chose to show him forgiveness and love, and he gravitated towards it so much, Loanne, that he didn't want to leave her side. He didn't want to leave her presence. Why is that? Because it was the first time probably in all of his long life, and he was a much older gentleman, and he was experiencing Christ's love. And so I agree with that. I think when people are really abusive, they have so many wounds and so many walls up. They are not feeling or experiencing God's love. And it's so tragic. And it's us that can maybe step in there and be that Christ for them. But I will tell you, there comes a time, with verbally abusive, emotionally abusive, physically abusive, there comes a time where you have to separate from it because it could be very dangerous, right? But if it's go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Let me also add something to you. He was so abusive that I have anxiety, that I have breast cancer, and I'm a breast cancer patient, and I just finished my radiation a few months ago. But I'm very at peace. I'm not scared. I'm very I trust that God will give me a chance because I'm very strong. I am, I don't feel sad. I don't feel the regret of being a human being, and I feel very blessed that He is giving me a warning, a chance, because believe me, I went through a lot. I went through so much, but yet he is giving me such peace now, and he's giving me such beautiful 3 children that they they giving me back a lot of joy, and now that he sees it, because he used to have a lot of girlfriends, a lot, even after we got married. But whatever I don't see, I forgive, because I hear a lot, but I don't see it in front of my eyes. I said that why do I have to take that and keep it inside my heart? But sometimes it does hurt. But then again, like I said, maybe he doesn't know. I do want to help him. I do want to help him to get to heaven. I do want us, be together. And so that's why God does talk to me. He even often told me that taking care of your children is a job. So I try to, instead of talking back instead of being sad, I share it to people. I told people to be patient, be more loving. Maybe the family will be together. That's the most important thing, is that the children do not see that the mom and the dad get upset, that there should be peace inside the house, so that they will feel love. When they feel love, they will study better, and they will treat you better, and they'll be calm, and they be good. They're not going to go outside and be bad. And so,
well,
my
Loanne,
youngest one going to graduate. So I'm okay. So that's why I'm just sharing that.
Well, no, that's good, and we feel so honored that you were able to share that with us and all of us, because it does help us. For those of us that are in situations that can be causing us, disease. Because we're absorbing all this pain and this anguish, and so I just want to say this to you on a couple of things, because I'm a cancer. I went through cancer in 1994. I consider myself a cancer thriver, and I believe too that a lot of it came from the things that I endured. It just manifested in disease. And so, Loanne, I just wanted to say first off, I just want to say you have a big Take Two family around you that has already started to pray for you, and that you get through this and you come out the other side a much stronger person and completely healthy and healed from this. Okay, so you have the Take Two family. We can promise you that in prayer. The other thing I just wanted to say is right now, you are the closest to Jesus. Okay. He's got his arms around you. He's practically smothering you, Loanne. And so that is a beautiful walk that you are doing together with Jesus. And so my additional prayer for you is that all of the love you receive now through this experience from your children, from your husband, from friends, from even strangers that'll come out of the woodwork and just maybe offer you a card or prayers or just, want to journey with you, nurses and doctors and stuff. I pray that you absorb it and take that as a beautiful gift, as like gentle kisses from Jesus. I really pray that you experience that, because it's an incredible journey to go through something like you're going through. Yes, it's scary. And yes, it may not have the quote unquote worldly happy ending, right? But you are so close to Jesus, and that is what we all should be striving for. So I just want to say, girlfriend, keep it up, stay strong. And if you get it all shaky, I want you to email me and I'll remind you of this. And it's at take2@EWTN.com. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay,
Jerry,
Loanne.
what do you think?
Thank you for a beautiful, beautiful phone call. Yeah, we'll pray for that situation, Loanne. Thank you. Margaret, you are going to be next. Just wanted to tag on real quickly. This is just really good advice, general principles for all of us from Loanne's call. She acted with such grace and dignity in this situation. Many people in that situation would have saw their marriage differently, like, I'm out of here. And obviously there are circumstances that require perhaps very serious things that require a marriage to not stay together. But she, in accepting God's will in the situation with her husband, I think prepared her for the cancer diagnosis and treatment. You could hear that in her voice. You'd hear all along, she says, I just wanted to help my husband get to heaven. I wanted to do God's will. And then when the cancer diagnosis came, it was, okay, Lord, this is your will. I'm able to accept that right now. And again, just a final thing I would say is the kids could have been very harmed by all of this. Maybe there was, some impact upon them, but the way Luann acted in this situation, Debbie, I think the kids were shielded from so much more harm that could have been inflicted upon them. So she is a true hero in my eyes today.
She is a true hero. I just love her. Absolutely. I love her spirit. I love her disposition. I love her strength. She's got beautiful children. She's holding on and preserving and protecting her marriage. Please, folks, let's pray for Luann. She's our sister in Christ, and that she can get through this. Okay, if you want to call in and talk about, do you practice what you preach? We want to hear from you. 833-288-3986. And up next will be Margaret and the others, so hang on.
Jimmy Aiken.
One of my greatest joys in life is the joy of discovery, especially discovering answers to the questions about God, about the world that He's made, and how we can find our way to Him.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio.
When I was looking at going from renting a house to buying a house for the first time, I was terrified by that kind of financial commitment. I called my dad, told him about my fear, and he said, I got your back. If things don't work out, I can always bail you out. So I gave it my all with a new spirit of peace, knowing that I had this safety net because I have a Father who's looking out for me. Thank God for good dads. Guys, you have a heavenly Father who's looking out for you. Jesus said, your Father knows what you need before you even ask Him. Look, you have problems to face every day. You have obstacles to conquer. You have things that stress you out. That's okay, we all do. There's no escaping that in life. But as you approach those things and you give it your all, do it with the spirit of someone who has a Father who's got his back. Because guess what? You do. Send us a message at connect@reallifecatholic.com. This is Chris Stefanik from reallifecatholic.com on EWTN Radio.
He is honored by the Church as a saint with the title of the Seraphic Doctor.
Matthew Bunson and the Doctors of the Church.
One of the greatest theologians and Franciscan mystics in church history, Bonaventure also wrote a biography of St. Francis that was commissioned by the Franciscans themselves. It took a saint and true mystic to understand a true saint and mystic. He died in 1274.
For more about the Doctors of the Church, visit doctorsofthechurch.com.
Purvis. And I'm Deacon Harold. The Morning Glory team asks, what can we do to boost the morale of priests?
Tomorrow morning, 7 Eastern. Now back to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
You're listening to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie in this time slot, Monday through Friday, noon Eastern Time, and a replay at midnight Eastern Time on most of these same EWTN Global Catholic radio stations. And again, I just repeat it all the time. We just thank the affiliates for carrying the program. We love you. And many of you we still help by coming and hosting your pledge drives and helping you raise the funds you need to stay on the air. So that is such a great blessing for us. But we appreciate all of you listening. Here's the number. It's 833-288-3986, talking about walking the walk, talking the talk, practicing what we preach today. And we had Margaret on the line, Debbie, and she had a great take, and Margaret just dropped off. Maybe she had to go, but Margaret, if it was just disconnected for some reason, we would love to have you on. We'll put you right up in front, and you can go right on the air. Ryan will get you all set up. So, Margaret, if you're still listening, please feel free to call back.
We really want to hear your story, Margaret, and talk about it. I think it could help a lot of folks. The number to dial is 833-288-3986. We're talking about, we're asking the question, do you practice what you preach? Do you walk the walk, talk the talk? You know how that works, okay? You don't want to be called a hypocrite, so you want to try to live authentically as a Catholic Christian and be in line with everything so that when you are speaking, we're not asking anybody to be perfect. Jerry and I are not perfect, believe me, okay? But we're trying really hard, okay? And our goal is we really want to get to heaven. We really are trying hard. But we make mistakes. Well, maybe not you, Jerry, but I make mistakes every day. Okay, every day. But we're trying. And so let's talk about that. I think it could really help. 833-288-3986. And real quickly, Jerry, our friend Zach weighed in. He has a hiccups cure. I've heard of this, Zach. It's peanut butter. I love peanut butter, but the only problem is we only have almond butter in the house. But I'm assuming that would work, don't you think?
Well, yeah, and I would think probably don't use it during the show.
Then I wouldn't be able to talk.
Jerry.
Thank you, Zach. That's good, though. I'm going to try
Thanks. Yeah, Zach has got to be a daily listener. We appreciate that that heads up on the cure for hiccups. Couple things. I looked up that passage that I was referring to earlier where Jesus warns against hypocrisy. I'm gonna save that for just a second, but I'm going to ask Debbie, maybe you and I can each weigh in on this before. Do you find that it's somewhat a challenge to be a Christian, a devout follower of Christ, and still, people are watching you, and if you do make a mistake, they can easily say, look, right there, you're a Christian and you do something like that. See, that's one of the pitfalls I think we have because we're not perfect. We get into maybe a mindset where we should be perfect. But what do you think about that? If family members, friends, those who are non-Christians, they have their eyes on us, do they sometimes perceive us as maybe being not practicing what we preach just simply because out of human nature we fall?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think it's just part of, your the familiar surroundings of your family and friends, and people have their certain labels and judgments about who they know. So I'm always going to be the youngest of 6 kids. Okay, I learned this about 10 years ago. I'm never going to be perfect in the eyes of my brothers and sisters. Never. They always see me as that little sibling that probably got on their nerves, and I was this or that, or they thought I was spoiled because I was the youngest or whatever. So I think there's always going to be those things that maybe our friends and family members are waiting for. Jerry, maybe is that what you're talking about? Like they're waiting for us to make that mistake or that slip, or maybe lose our temper or do something up. Oh, there it goes. So Jerry Usher's not perfect. Oh, so what qualifies you to be on the radio? Have you ever heard that? I've heard that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what I'm getting at. And I think we see this on a larger scale, of course, because, you have the abuse scandals in the church. And boy, oh boy, the church preaches one thing with regard to human life, marriage and family, sexuality. And then individual Christians, even clergy sometimes, don't practice what they preach. And it opens up the church for, I would say not legitimate criticism, because it's not the church's fault. You see what I mean? But it can open up the church for some criticism, and then these individuals in a special sort of way can be looked down upon. So I think you're right.
Yeah. Well, and Jerry, I tell everybody all the time, people think, why do you have to go to church? Why do you go to church? You think you're so perfect. You think you're so great. You think you're saints. You go to church. No, the church is filled with the faithful who are sinners and who recognize that. I tell everybody all the time, and it's, I kind of approach it a little bit half joking, but I really mean it when I say it. But people, they chuckle and they laugh, but I really mean it. I'm a sinner in need of a savior, and thank goodness he came. And I think the more we recognize that, the human condition and what we have to deal with, and all of our shortcomings and all of our failings and all of our sinfulness, the more we can strive. We can strive. That's the key, the intention, okay, to try and walk the walk and talk the talk, so that when we do profess something, people will trust it. I think if somebody is making the effort, Jerry, I think we got to give them have a listen to what they have to say. What do you think?
Well, yeah, and I think how we comport ourselves, how we live our lives is so important. If we walk around sort of strutting like a peacock, the peacocks strut, I think they do, but they're kind of have that prideful look about them. And if we walk through life sort of, hey, I'm a Christian and aren't I great, that's really going to be, we're setting ourselves up for a major crash and burn. So I think if we're just ourselves, our weak, human, sinful selves, to those who know us and to those even who don't know us, then I think that actually, Debbie, has the power to work in the opposite direction and get them to say, wow, Debbie, Jerry, or whoever is, they're trying to follow Christ, and they do a pretty good job of that, but they readily admit that they don't reach a certain standard and that they sin and they fall. It could be rather disarming in this whole context as well.
Well, look at our show, Take Two. Look, why is it so popular and received by so many? And we get the emails all the time. In fact, some people, when they first tuned into our show, they were like, I'm not sure if I like this. I don't know if I like having, all these calls come in and I want to hear. And then they start to hear these stories and they realize, things are resonating with them. They can understand we're all in the same kind of path, if you will. The journey, it's messy. It has twists and turns. It kind of goes along with exactly what we're launching with Stand Tall, Jerry, to take another look at life. We have this thing called this messy life. If you think it's going to be a storybook life, then just go back to the movie theater and sit in the fourth row and get that extra popcorn, because that's all it is. It's not for real. Wouldn't you say that, Jerry? I mean, to me, it's so frustrating because I know now at almost 55 years old, I look back at my life and it was pretty messy. And sometimes I can get really down from that. But then I go, wait a minute, I learned so much. I grew in faith. I grew in trust. I became a more dependent on God. I surrendered more. So I wouldn't have wanted to change really any of it. I mean, do you ever look back? Right. I now that I'm getting older, I'm looking back a lot.
And it's not pretty.
It's not pretty.
Well, I want to give the phone number out again. And today we're talking about practicing what we preach. I am going to hazard a guess that 100% of us fail to live up to the life that we have called, what's it say in the Bible? Live a life worthy of the calling you have received. And again, it's not because we're bad or we're mean or we're awful people or anything. St. Francis de Sales reminds us, if we're trying to follow Christ, then we don't sin out of disobedience, we sin out of weakness. But have you found it challenging at times to live the faith as we have received it? If you're married, do you and your spouse have any way of holding one accountable? We just had an email from Zach, his second one of the day, Debbie, and it says, Dear Debbie and Jerry, one thing that helps me to do better at walking the walk is to be accountable to someone who is also trying to walk the walk. So that's a good idea there.
Absolutely.
And here's something too. Are you able to be gentle with yourself? If you fall, if you sin, if you make mistakes, if you don't practice perfectly what you preach, do you find it, you kind of slip into this little beating myself up sort of thing? We don't want that to happen. Maybe that's a situation that you find yourself in. And what about, have you ever had any conversations with non-Christians who argue that they can't believe in the faith of the church because of some of the ways Catholics live out their faith? This is our topic today, and you drive it at 833-288-3986.
I learned a lot already. Loanne's call was really... It was really inspirational in the sense that I just, what she went through and is still going through, and now she's entering into this cancer diagnosis and having to go through treatment. I just, wow. When you said hero, she's a hero. She really is my hero. I mean, hearing her speak, I just feel like doesn't it move you to say, wait a minute, we can do more. We can pray more. We can enter into a relationship with God more. We can do everything just once. And we're coming up on Lent. What a perfect time, Jerry, for us to really stretch ourselves and take it to the next level and really see what we can learn about ourselves and the people around us in our sphere of influence, our family, our friends. By the way, breaking news. Teresa just weighed in, and Teresa confirms what Zach said, that peanut butter does work for hiccups. Thank you, Teresa.
Great.
That was breaking news.
You're getting love showered on you today, Debbie.
Yeah, but I only have almond butter. Do you think almond butter is going to work? It's probably the same, right?
I would think so, yeah.
Okay.
One way to find out.
I'm going to try it as soon as the show's done. Somebody just said mustard. No,
Rich,
I'm not
our
taking.
Producer.
Okay, no, Rich. I think Rich is just he's playing a trick on me. I think. What do you think?
I don't know. I've never heard of mustard before.
I'm not doing mustard.
He says, hold your ears and drink it through a straw.
Oh, you could do that, Jerry. You like hot mustard and hot
hot everything, condiments. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So what do you? Let me ask you this question, Jerry. Did you ever have your mom? Right? Did you ever, when you were growing up, some of the things that she directed you to do or commanded to do as a parent, right? Did you ever look and say, "Okay, come on, Mom, get real. You know what? You're not doing that. Why should I do that?" I had that experience several times with my parents. Did you ever have that?
I would say yes. Yeah, I know. I have a general recollection of it. I don't have any specifics right at the moment, but yeah, I'm sure that my mom did say something like that, and your parents did too, huh?
Yeah, it kind of bugged me actually. No, I really did, because as a little kid, I used to see some of their actions, and I was like, "Wait a minute, this just doesn't line up. I don't like this." But it was that generation. But we want to hear from you. We have plenty of time to get on the show. Ryan is answering calls right now, so you can jump right into the line 833-288-3986. Do you practice what you preach? We're asking this question today on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
That passage that I was referring to earlier is in Matthew chapter 23, and it says, starting in verse 1, then Jesus said to the crowds and to his disciples, "The teachers of the law and the Pharisees sit on Moses' seat." What that means is it's kind of like our version of that as Catholics is the cathedra, the seat of the Pope. So it's not the seat itself that has authority or power or whatever. It's the one who sits on it in that office. So he says the teachers of the law and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. So you must be careful to do everything they tell you, but do not do what they do, for they do not practice what they preach. Isn't that powerful? It's right there in the Bible. Jesus gives us a stark example, Debbie, that this is going to be part of human life, and any one of us can fall into it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we tried to stall long enough for Margaret in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania to call back. She did not as of yet, so we're going to move to Joe, and Joe is in Kansas City, Missouri, Catholic Radio Network. That's how you're listening. Hi, Joe. Welcome to Take Two.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Just fine.
I have been dying. I've been dying for a chance to call you guys because my take actually has to do with a thank you that I have for you and the listeners, because right after you started, there was a show you did about how are you bringing God's will into your profession or something along that. And I've dedicated my law practice to God and serving his people ever since I started it in 2009. So I called to tell you guys about that and to ask for prayers, because I was in a hard place. And what happened after that was nothing short of a miracle. I was engaged to who is now my husband, but while living as brother and sister, we were under the same roof, mostly due to financial issues, but it led to so many problems in our relationship. And after I was on your show, this series of events happened that led to us splitting up, and I moved all the way across the country to stay with my dad for a month. And the two of us were like, we fight all the time. We're having all these issues. Why are we even engaged? And we went through this period of discernment. We both were going to Mass every day. We were going to adoration. And we both, I kind of developed this relationship with Mary, and he was Joseph. And we came back after a few weeks. It was funny, like we both had this nudge to talk to the other, and we were like, we need to do this right because we loved each other. And so I moved back, but I moved in with a friend, and we sort of started ticking the boxes for how you're supposed to go into a marriage if you're Catholic. We took the classes, and we did what we were supposed to do, and we've been married now for 4.5 years, and it really did. It changed both of our lives.
Wow. Wow, Joe. Well, thank you for referencing whatever that past show was. But if you were moved in any way in this regard, it was certainly the Holy Spirit who works through this, and we believe all EWTN Catholic radio shows. But you have given us an example of what it means to be obedient and indeed to practice what you preach. And there again, I mentioned earlier in the show, Debbie, how we can open the door just a crack, and God just blows the door off the hinges with His grace. If we just give Him that little crack in there, He says, okay, great, now I can work in this situation. And Joe, God has been so prevalently at work in your lives. I'm so glad you've drawn closer to the faith, to the sacraments, to Joseph and Mary as well. Wow, this is just a very inspiring call, Debbie, from top to bottom.
Absolutely, Joe. Thank you so much for calling back. And that's the power of prayer. And I agree with Jerry. That's the power of expressing it and communicating your desires to God. Like you said, you dedicated your practice to the Lord, and you and your, before he was your husband, you made it right. You hit the restart button, okay, and you did it the right way. And because of that, God can free flow, if you will, into your life with these graces and blessings. Not that it wouldn't happen otherwise, but I think it's much more difficult because when people stop that flow of grace by their own desires, their own selfishness, their own willingness, and things enter in, I always call it's like the kink in the hose. The water's not going to flow freely. It might still trickle through to the end, and you could possibly spray down the yard, but it's going to take you a lot longer, right? But when you have a hose that's unkinked and the water's flowing, boy, oh boy, you never know. It's just massive. And that's what I think the good Lord can work in all of our lives, but we have to be willing to make the steps to correct the issues that are going wrong. Because and here's what we do: we have to take out our own selfishness, our own self desires. We have to remove it and look what God would want for us. It sounds like you and your now husband have done that, and I just say, wow, what a beautiful path you guys are on, and I just can't wait to journey with you to see what's next in the next chapter and the next chapter. What do you think about that? I know I always use that analogy of the hose, but it works from little kids all the way to grown adults, because everybody has a garden hose, right, Joe?
Yeah, well, and it's funny because whenever you're a kid and you do that, that's how you learn that it hits you in the face if you have it aimed it the wrong way, and that's sort of that's sort of what happens. It's like God's all of a sudden like there, and things happen that you never thought could happen, and I think something that it really taught us was that if you stay entrenched in your hypocrisy, it's so prideful, it's so sinful, and if you just let go of that pride, God fixes it. And even in things that you think can't be fixed, it's truly, like I said, it's miraculous.
It's God. It's God.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Joe, you are a precious soul. God bless you in your beautiful marriage and your wonderful, flourishing career. I think it's awesome, and I just love to be a part of it. Thank you for being part of the Take Two family.
Thank you, Joe, for your phone call. Yeah, our prayers go with you. Thanks so much for joining us on the program. You can hear the joy in her voice, Debbie, and that joy is from deep down inside, because that's what is in her heart, in her soul right now. When we make right decisions, they may be challenging, they may be financially burdensome at times. They may not be what we want to do, but when things come back around like they have for Joe and her husband, it is just an amazing, that kind of joy is going to remain with them. It's just they're going to live out that joy, I think, for a very long time. So quickly, before we go to Kaylee, I want to mention EWTN Radio is available on audio platforms like Amazon Alexa. You can listen to EWTN Radio by just saying, Alexa, ask EWTN to play Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, or Catholic Connection, or the Journey Home, and Alexa will do that for you. So you can get more information about that at EWTN.com.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Kaylee, you're up next in Wichita, Kansas, listening on Catholic Radio Network. Take it away, Kaylee.
Hi, Jerry and Debbie. I just want to say thank you for taking my call today. What I have to say is that I'm great at giving advice about really a lot of things, but especially telling people that worrying doesn't do anything good for you. You know, it doesn't co-align with trusting God and trusting that God has everything in control, and these things that we have no control over, you know, there's no point in worrying. I'm great at telling people that, but myself, I am a worrier. I've got complex PTSD, so I catch myself all the time super anxious and worrying about silly things that don't need to be worried about. I'll keep myself up late at night, you know, about especially the pro-abortion movement right now. I've been super anxious. You know, I've done all I can. I'm doing all I can, but I still find myself worrying and even losing sleep about it. And I need to remember God does have this, and He allows people to do these things. And I don't know why. I don't know what the purpose is and what good will come from the slaughter of our unborn children. But I know that He allows it to happen. He could make it stop happening anytime He wants to, but I definitely worry, and I tell other people, stop worrying, take it to God, let Him take over. Mm-hmm. And that's just that's one thing that I struggle with is worrying instead of just giving it to God.
Yeah, but Kaylee, real quickly, I just want to say, because you're talking to another chronic worrier, okay? I'm right with you. And I can tell people not to worry. But let me just share something with you, because I had a great teacher, actually spiritual director, tell me this. It's not, you're not really, how can we say this? You're not really, you're actually wanting to help others not have to go through the pain that you're going through. It's actually a beautiful gift you're giving them. See, as for worriers, we can all relate to this. We don't want to see anybody else go through the kind of mental havoc that we go through, right, Kaylee? And that's why you tell people that, because you know it's the truth, but you still struggle with it. So what I do, and let me tell you something else too, okay? Counselors give the best advice as well. And a lot of times, you know, there's a lot of counselors that have some pretty, you know, messed up lives in their own personal life. So, I mean, it does happen that way because they can give good advice because they have either walked it or they're still walking it. So in this case, I think you're wanting to help your friends and family members to not worry because you're going through a lot with it. What I do is every single time I tell others not to worry, I always think of pray, hope, and don't worry, because worry is useless, what Padre Pio told us. I say, Jesus, I trust in you, like St. Faustina, and I turn it into a prayer for myself as well. So it's something that could really help. I just wanted to share that and give you an affirmation on that. But Jerry has some more important things to share.
Well, Kaylee, Debbie and I have the Inspired by Faith book club, and it's run by our good friend Gigi. And our book for Lent that several dozen of us are going to be reading is it's Give Up Worry for Lent. Give Up Worry for Lent. It's by an author by the name of Gary Zimak, who himself admittedly deals with a lot of worry, anxiety, and so forth. You can find that. Check the EWTN religious catalog first, but we encourage you to go to jerryanddebbie.com and become part of our book club. So it's Give Up Worry for Lent. And the other thing I might just encourage you to do, if you get a chance, grab your Bible when you have a few quiet moments and go to Luke chapter 12. Jesus talks all about in there how God knows every hair that's on our head, and we can't add an inch to our stature if we worry about things and so forth. And I'm not trying to say this is easy. This runs in my family too, Kaylee. I'm a worrier too, just like Debbie said that she can be and that you're admitting. But again, as Debbie said, this isn't a hypocritical thing that you're involved in. You're really trying to better other people as you try to better yourself. So there is a couple of resources for you.
Thank you, Kaylee. Thank you so very, very much. Thanks, everybody, for participating by email or texting us or calling in. This was a great discussion. I think we've learned. I think we've grown a little bit. So to help us walk the walk and talk the talk. Tomorrow, we have another show planned for you. But Jared, do you have the show? What's tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm healed. We want to hear from people who have experienced a healing from God through maybe the hands of human beings as well. Until tomorrow, have a beautiful and blessed day.
Dr. Ray Guarendi, making you parenting more fit, making your kids have less fits, and making your husband wear clothes that fit. The doctor is in. Next.
Morning Glory. It's Catholic from coast to coast.
Prior to the social revolution of the 60s, we all went to church, and there was a kind of structure for meaning. You know, in every culture, religion is at the